In World War II, the trigger was visible. September 1st, 1939, and the world had a line you could point to. Today, there may never be a single invasion moment because everything is being weaponized at once. Narratives, markets, technology, supply chains, and domestic division, with psychological warfare coming from outside and from within. Are we watching the modern version of the 1930s, where pressure campaigns and propaganda set the conditions until a major war becomes unavoidable? And if so, what are the clearest World War II era parallels you see playing out in real time right now?
Wow. That's quite the question. There's one thing I want to cover.
Let's do it. Let's cover it.
Because I don't feel like I gave you a good answer the last interview when you asked, do you see this as 1939? In 1939, Hitler invaded Poland and people were on edge. But in World War I, even more than that, there was more going on that the whole world was on edge, right, and ready to go. I frequently, when I'm talking to my wife, I'm saying, the world right now is a tinderbox. Everybody is on the edge of their seat waiting to see what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I see massive parallels to before World War I. I think we are more of a tinderbox than we were before World War II. World War II, there was still a possibility for diplomacy and some actions that could have been taken that may have forestalled a world war. World War I, everybody was so ready to jump in that it was almost a foregone conclusion. So having said that, yeah, I see a lot of parallels right now. Information is a huge area of warfare. The way information is disseminated, how it's disseminated, who it's disseminated to, is pitting people against each other. In the U.S., I think we are more divided than we've ever been. It's us versus them, and we talk at each other instead of with each other. And I said, no, I see it as 1913. 1913 was a tinderbox. Everything was set to go.
World War III.
World War III. I didn't give you a full answer, and I'd like to do that. So is this closer to 1939? Is it closer to 1913? And I've been giving this more thought. 1939, we had a defined, visible problem. We saw what was going on, right? And the problem with asking the question, is this 1939, is we keep asking that. And we keep saying, well, this is just like 1939, right? Iraq was like 1939. Vietnam is like 1939. Iran now is like 1939. And when people say that, what they're saying is you either see this as such a clear event with known outcomes that if you can't see it, somehow you're morally deficient. And it shuts down the conversation because it's like, this is clear. How can you not see it? We're not going to discuss it. And since we use it so often, you have to ask your question, is every single adversary Hitler? Or are we just saying it's 1939 to stop talking about it because we think it's so clear, right? The other problem with focusing on 1939 is who was the villain? Hitler. Why was he the villain? Well, one big, huge thing was the Holocaust, right? So immediately when we go to 1939, we start framing this as this is bad for the Jews without even saying anything else. But Germany in 1939 is horribly different from Iran today. In 1939, Germany had the largest conventional military in Europe. They had already occupied Czechoslovakia. They had already occupied Austria. Their stated goal was territorial expansion. Their national song was Deutschland, Deutschland über alles. Germany, Germany over everyone. And they had a concept of Lebensraum, which means living room. We need more room. They wanted to expand. Contrast that with Iran. Iran has not tried to expand its borders anywhere. They fought Iraq. They have proxy fights going on. None of those are to expand their borders. So right away, we're a little bit different here.
Maybe it's very similar to 1939. We're just playing on the other side now.
Could be.
Because somebody's trying to expand their borders.
Somebody is. That's
but
true.
It's not Iran.
It's not Iran. Somebody has a stated goal of expanding their borders. Somebody has committed atrocities very similar to those in the Holocaust. You're not supposed to say that, but because only one people get to ever use that card, but it's true. Very true. Here's what's important, though. Here's what happened in 2013. There were three things that happened. And I think as I talk about these, you'll see them happening. The first one was so everybody talks about World War I being kicked off by the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. Great. But what does that mean? There was a Serbian national that shot Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo, and he was an Austro-Hungarian. That event should have been containable because at the time, Europe had a very elegant system of statescraft. They had very experienced people interacting between countries. They should have been able to contain this. What happened, though, was there were a system of interconnected obligations that nobody looked at. So, a Serbian national shoots Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo. Archduke Ferdinand is an Austro-Hungarian. Austria immediately goes and says, we're going to punish Serbia. Okay, fine. What does that mean? We'll get to that in a second. But they go to punish Serbia. Serbia has agreements with Russia that if we're attacked, you will help us. Well, hey, Austria just attacked us. Russia steps in. As soon as Russia steps in, it triggers Germany. Germany had agreements that if Russia ever moves, we're going to step in too. Russia starts to mobilize. Right after that, France says, if Russia moves west, we're active. It was like a dominoes effect. It was like you've seen these things on TV where there's a whole room of mouse traps, and you throw one marble in and everything goes. That's what happened, right? And if you look at that today, we have NATO. We have NATO contracts and agreements with Turkey, Kuwait, Bahrain. And guess what? Turkey just got hit with missiles from Iran. So did Bahrain. So did Kuwait. Turkey invoked, Article 4 of the NATO of Mutual Defense and said, what are you guys going to do? I haven't seen an answer to that yet. And but I'm like, we have agreements that says when, you attack one of these, everybody jumps in. And that could happen right now. The other thing is there was no defined endpoint. So Austria said, we're going to punish Serbia. What does that mean? When are you done? What? Nobody knew. So everything kept going on. There was a historian named Christian Clark, who wrote a book called The Sleepwalkers. And the Sleepwalkers talked about this and said all of the European countries, they weren't evil, they weren't ignorant, they were sleepwalking. They sleepwalked right into the biggest catastrophe of human history with 17 million people dead because they weren't paying attention to what went on. Another author named, what was her name? Starts with a THU, Thur something. I can't remember her name. Wrote a book called The Guns of August. And what she said was the problem with what happened in July and August in 1914, 1913 was when he was killed, 1914, all this lights off, was once the military mobilization started, you couldn't stop it. And the mobilization started because everybody had contingency plans. Again, this happens, we do this. Mobilization already began. And as soon as the mobilization begins, it triggers this one. Their mobilization begins. Right now in Iran, we see this happening. We have interlocking agreements with other countries. We have a mobilization starting. Don't forget, Tulsi Gabbard said they do not have nuclear weapons. IAEA director said they do not have nuclear weapons. The day before we bombed, February 27th, Oman, who we were using as a conduit to talk to Iran, said, we have reached an agreement with Iran. They agree they will not refine nuclear material, they will not stockpile it, and they will agree to inspections. They agreed to everything we wanted. And the Omani foreign minister said, peace is at hand. The next morning we bombed them. What the Guns of August was saying was once things were in motion, you can't stop them. When I was in, let's say we're gonna attack somebody February 28th. As a pilot, I don't wake up in the morning and they go, hey, today you're gonna go do this. Let's say February, I don't remember what day it was. Do you? What day the 28th was? Mm-hmm. I'll make it up. Let's say it's a Friday. The latest I'm going to know about it is Wednesday. The planners knew about it the week before because we've got a plan. Well, what's our target, right? If that's our target, what weapon system are we going to use to hit it with? Where is that weapon systems located? We're going to send planes in? Okay, well, if we're going to send planes in, we've got to take care of their anti-aircraft first. We'll do that with ground batteries over here. We've got to let them know so they can do a targeting solution for that. And then the ship has to say, well, what planes are available that aren't in maintenance can do it? Do we have that weapon systems on board? What pilots are current and trained in that? Can we get those planes here with this weapon systems at this time? We need to coordinate with the ships that are firing Tomahawks so that we're not shooting down our own planes when they go in. The amount of coordination and planning that goes into this is at least a week long. So we started mobilizing an attack on the 28th well before. So on the 27th, when they came out and said, hey, we've got an agreement, peace is at hand, too late. We're already moving. Damn. And this is what they said happened in 1913. Things were already moving. They couldn't stop it. And decisions stopped being made and response packages started getting executed. We already have the response package. This happens, we do this. Well, there's no human interaction in there. And quite honestly, this is why I see huge problems with, I know you interviewed the guy from Palantir, the CTO. I have huge problems with AI targeting applications that don't have human interaction because they can make decisions that don't have any intellect to them. They're logical, but they don't have the human element in them anymore. And that's what gets us into situations like this. And in 1913, everybody thought, this is going to be quick. We're going to go in and have a contained regional conflict and be done. Germany had the Schlieffen Plan. They thought they could defeat France in 6 days. France thought, we're going to survive because of Elan, our fighting spirit. Great Britain had reduced its military down to a smaller elite unit that they said, we don't need a big force. We can just have a smaller one that's more surgical. You put all of this together and you look at it in hindsight, it's like, well, of course this happened. With the interlocking obligations, right, the hubris that we could just do things fast and get out, and the lack of any defined goals that were achievable, it was a foregone conclusion. This is going to happen. What's different today is we know that happens. We have the books, The Sleepwalker. We have the book, The Guns of August. We've seen this happen.
Creeps up on you.
We need to put a stop to it. Or we're going to see this. This could expand and keep going. And I would hate to see that.